there, comic friends. I'm Travis, and it's Talking Comics. We're going to talk some comics. This is Comics for the week of November 20th, 2024. It is a massive pile of books. 20 books I'm going to talk about. No particular order. We'll just start right in. And we're going to start with the House of Slaughter issue number 27. This is part 2 of Azure, first issue of Azure. I kind of was confused as to particularly what was going on. I don't know. For some, it may have just been the mood I was in. This issue makes much more sense. One of our blue mass has been tasked with figuring out what's going on with the house. There's something weird going on with the totems and a group of people, and he has been tasked with attempting to dig into those secrets. Blue Mass seem to be their main job is they're the ones that clean up after a monster incident. They're the ones that that put out the news briefings or whatever to convince people that whatever really happened didn't happen, that it was something else, that it was a rabid dog, or that that sort of thing, to answer for what's going on. But it was really interesting. He's dealing with characters that we've seen, in the past. Bait is in this, the kid that has no arms. That's a white mask. There's a red mask in this that was from felt like towards the very beginning of the House of Slaughter stories. And he is a pivotal part of this, of looking into it. And he's kind of an odd personality himself. And so dealing with him is interesting. And then, of course, our main character for the story has this other pressure going on around him from two different sources of people of more power in the house. So interesting stuff. Feels like there's some heavy consequences, potentially, depending on what he finds and who he sides with. Sort of thing, but really enjoying it quite a bit. Some good fun there. And then, next up we have Wonder Woman issue number 15, the start of the new arc. This arc is called Fury, I believe. I remember correctly. This is after the insane stuff that happened in the last issue, the trauma, the birth, and all of that. This issue is quite wonderful as it shows our cast of Wonder Women basically dismantling the financial power of the King of America. And just, really interesting, really sweet, some sweet parts in it too, because it's the beginning of Trinity and Wonder Woman being mom, basically doing some mom duties. Just really, really good stuff. And then the backup issue, there continues to be a backup story in this. It is Steve in equivalent heaven, not heaven, but someplace along those lines. And the place trying to give him what he deserves. You go to the good place, you should have good stuff. And it's seemingly not necessarily working out for him. Just really, really excellent art. Sam Free's art, to think about who was doing the art on it, is just so excellent through this. Just really, really great stuff. Highly recommend the Tom King Wonder Woman stuff. It's just been really... really sharp. Other than obviously the issues that got tied into the event and whatnot. Don't worry about those issues, but the actual Wonder Woman book itself has been really, really good. Kind of see where this part's going. I'm curious to see if still, considering how this story first started, once we're past the Fury arc, if we want to interpret that literally, if we get a story, if we're going to get how do you fix the psychological damage to America around this and around Amazon's. We'll be curious to see if that happens. But anyway, excellent book. Just really, really enjoyed that book a lot, a lot, a lot. Next up, we have Batman and Robin, year one. This is issue number 2. Wade, Samney. It's really Samney. Wade just throws some words in there, I think. This issue I enjoyed a lot more than the first issue. Maybe because I'm just, I'm reading it to read it. Less thinking about the fact that it's yet another year one story. But it was really, really enjoyable. Of course, Chris Samney's art continues to be, what it's all about. But the story itself is really enjoyable too. It's just more of this, beginning first days of Dick as Robin, and Bruce and Dick's relationship, and of course, there's this other baddie that's appearing in Gotham that potentially is going to be a threat to the Five Families as they take over, or are potentially going to attempt to take over Gotham. We get an interesting scene with Two-Face, and just to kind of deliver the arrogance and power of the people that are coming to take over Gotham. They kind of brush Two-Face off. Two-Face shows up saying, "Hey, I got this stuff, mahaha, I can help you out." And they're kind of like, "Yeah, well, we'll get back to you. We're not sure we're interested." So interesting, just interesting. Really, really enjoyed that aspect of it also. But just a joy to get to see full-on DC Comics done by Chris Samney. So good stuff. Next up from Dark Horse, we have Where Monsters Lie. And this is a funny book. It's just a funny book. I mean, if you find tongue-in-cheek slasher horror funny, this is a funny book. It's basically about these little communities of serial killers, crazy out there, stuff from like the movie, Freddy and Jason's sort of thing. Communities of serial killers and them kind of dealing with each other and dealing with the fact that they've got someone in their midst that could potentially destroy them, and they're trying to turn them to being a serial killer also. Just a lot of kind of goofy is not the right word, but it's all fun. It's all fun. I mean, it's horrible. It's murderous. It's full of blood and bodies, but just in kind of a reasonably tongue-in-cheek way, which is kind of Kyle Stark's sort of a deal. He's the writer. I always love Peter Kowalski's art, so just fun. No idea exactly where the book's going to go, but it's amusing to read. Next up, we have Nullhunter. This is issue number 2 of the Michael Walsh written Vargas on art. The art is really cool. This issue bothered me less than the first issue did. This is basically a retelling of Hercules's trials. Basically, is kind of what this is, set in a cyberpunk world. I dig all that. That's all cool. I'm down for retelling of those myths and stuff. My issue with the first issue was it just felt like we just kind of jumped to places without a lot of logic behind it to get to the cool fight scenes. Some degree, this is more so, but because we've now really started it, they're not having to explain a lot of our main characters past a whole lot to make some of these logic jumps. Now we just know that we're going from place to place, trying to gather some information to get revenge, basically, is what our guy is out to do. And in the process of that, he is helping out the parent corporation, Olympus. In this one, it's fighting the equivalent of a Hydra. It's pretty cool. Some snake-themed hive mind, cybernetic guys that he mows down. So there's lots of cool cyberpunk violence and smashing and all that kind of stuff. Lots of great action and whatnot. A little bit of story towards the end of it, kind of thing, to give some level of emotional attachment to some of the stuff that's going on. So it was fun. It was fine. I mean, it's nothing super gripping, but I enjoyed this issue, like I said, considerably more than issue than issue one. And I figure we're just going to go through all the different trials in each issue is what it looks like, and kind of hang some other stuff around that while it's going on. But yeah, I'll be keeping with it. Oh, one of my favorite books this week, The Department of Truth, issue number 27. This is the end of our Marilyn Monroe story. It is super about Allison Sampson art. I was talking a few videos ago about, man, I need to see more of her art because she did this little bit in the Oni Press's Cruel Universe story, and she just has this really cool era vibe, like DC Vertigo kind of a stuff, for just kind of a general, hey, this is the vibe, to describe her artwork. Really like it a lot there. Super like it a lot here. Certainly some of that is due to Jody Blair's coloring, but just really cool art. I'm really digging the story too. Of course, this is Tinian writing this book. This issue is more about Marilyn Monroe and this guy who basically works for the Department of Truth, and his job is to basically, he goes out and kills cryptids. He goes out and hunts down Bigfoot, hunts down Mothman. In this issue, it literally shows him gunning down an angel, and how messed up that he says that makes him, whatnot, but not nearly as messed up as having to hang out in Hollywood and hang out with Marilyn Monroe, kind of a deal. But the art just sings. It just really does. It really has a cool aesthetic to it that is really impressive, and I just really dug it. And the art, along with the story, it just really all comes together really well. I love this. Monroe's talking about how she had a dream about the little green men coming to get her, and I love the fact that the little green men basically look like the kids. They're wearing flip-flops. I don't know. I just really love that look too. And then there's just, like I said, it's just, she does so much and it's so cool. And there's different styles for different stuff that's going on. And the story itself is really good, with Huck and whatnot, and his hunting and him trying to decide what he's going to do with Monroe. Because it's certainly implied that Monroe is a mytho at this point. And she knows that's what he's there to do, and she has a really interesting conversation with him about that. And then how much, and the implication that how much of Hollywood is all just that. It's all made up, and where does that put him and whatnot. But this story arc is done. I think we move on to some other stuff. I think we are now, well, I don't know if we're going to get past the Kennedy stuff and Kennedy adjacent stuff, because I think we're going to move into the next president and how much the Department of Truth has to deal with that, possibly. But just really great stuff. Always excited to see Department of Truth when it's out. And this artist, I don't know, I wouldn't call him a fill-in artist. They used a different artist for this part of the story, and it worked super well. Like I said, I need to be watching for more of what Allison Sampson is doing, because I'm seriously have dug the last couple things that I've seen of hers. So I hope, if she's wanting a full-time gig somewhere, I hope somebody finds one for her on something cool, because her style is really cool. Next up, we have Galaxy of Madness, issue number 5. This is the halfway point. I believe that this is going to be 10 issues. I saw on social media that there is going to be a new artist on the book starting with the next issue. That kind of bums me out, because one of the reasons I really dig this book is Michael von Oming's artwork, his style, his paneling. He has a look that is particular to him, and I think it lends itself well to this kind of kooky math, space adventure, trying to solve the universe and pre-universe questions of archaeology. And little do some of the characters know in this what the heck is going on with their deceased parents. All really great stuff, really great intrigue. There are these wonderful lines in here of some of the scientists and archaeologists talking about their finds, and just this spew of mathematical language that comes out. I just find really fun and really enjoyable. And like I said, it all lends itself really well to the to the art style. I just like his pages and panel layouts. Everything he generally does has some interest to it, and he works in different ways depending on what what is going on and what kind of a message that he needs to deliver. There's just some really interesting and cool stuff. This one gives us some really intriguing background into some of our characters and what might possibly be going on. The whole mathematics around whether or not time is relative or not. All interesting and fun stuff. The next issue doesn't come out for a couple months. I think February is when it starts back up again. And we'll see with the change. I feel like this is kind of a creator-owned sort of indie type of book, and when those artists change, sometimes it fundamentally changes the way I feel about a book. So we'll see what that will be like when that happens. Oh, speaking of art change, which I thought I got and then I didn't understand. This is issue 4 of Standstill. This is the halfway point. And halfway through this comic, the comic changes. It's been Robinson all the way along. He's got a really cool, smooth style to his work. Of course, this book continues the whole giant. Everything's a 2-page spread. Every single page is a 2-page spread, and really enjoying that. And then halfway through at page 22, Alex Rigel, me and my names, takes over the book, and I thought, here we are still with Robinson, and I thought it made sense because our two people, the scientists that made this device, have cooked up the device again, and it's not working. There's some great scenes of them trying to figure out how to make it work, and then all of a sudden it seems to work. And when it works, we go from hey, and then all of a sudden everything stops, and then we go to this style of art where everything's kind of wobbly-ish and slow. And I thought, okay, so our artist is going to be telling from this guy's viewpoint when time has changed, and to visually make that look like time has changed, we're going to get this artist, and he does some stuff and whatnot, and then there's some other stuff that goes on. This scene here almost confused me because the guy on the side over there who's getting injected with stuff is not the same as our creator over on this side, but them both being lounged in a chair. I thought he was the same person. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Why is he being drugged? But he's not. He wakes up, and now he's awake, but the art hasn't changed back. It's stayed exactly the same. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know what happened. I don't know if we're gonna get Robinson back. Not super excited by this art at the end. It's just a change that I don't, it changes the book. It changes the feel of the book immediately once you've got 3 or 4 issues of it looking in an exact way. Kind of a thing. And I don't know how it is that sometimes, or why it is, maybe because I'm just used to it. The big 2 superhero comics never seems to throw me that much when it has art changes. I know some people complain about that, but it's never bothered me because I've been reading it for 40 years. That's how it's always been, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, so that's going to really kind of really change my thoughts if I've got 4 issues going forward of this. The story is interesting. You find out some interesting stuff about this guy's apparatus versus the other guy's apparatus. He feels like he knows who it is that's doing it. So it's more of a, it's looking more and more like a revenge thing, not a Robin Hood sort of a style type character vigilante who some of his choices are causing some problems. It really is more of a he has potentially some sort of vendetta going on, which is interesting. That's an interesting aspect to that character, to see how we were first presented the character and how that is changing along. I do appreciate that part, of the story. But boy, the art change is something. We'll see. We'll see. Black Cloak issue 10. I continue to struggle now with Black Cloak. There are getting to be a lot of characters in it, and a lot of them look enough alike that I'm having problems keeping straight who everybody is in it. In and itself, I like the art. I feel like there's not enough defining characteristics sometimes between our main character Essex and some of the other cast of characters now that they've all gathered them up. Yeah, I just, I don't know some of these people, they all are starting to, ooh, whoa, that's some weird, why is my camera acting that way? There we go. Don't know what I did there. That was interesting. Thought I had the autofocus off. There's just a lot of characters who look a little bit alike, so it's taking me a little more to not be confused by all of the aspects that are going on. It dips back into some of the old story from the last arc, which is fine. That'll be interesting to see how that, moves forward, because our main character Essex carries a lot of guilt because they ended some stuff, and in the process of that ending stuff, it drastically affected a lot of people. But then we dip back in. They go and they talk to the Queen in prison, get some interesting potential information from her, and we're left on a cliffhanger sort of a thing. I still like the comic. I'm having a harder time completely understanding what's going on throughout it. Yeah, I'm not 100%, haven't 100% put my finger on exactly why it is, but I am. Dead Eyes, issue number 3. I think this is going to be 4 issues. Maybe it's 5. This arc, miniseries, whatever you want to call it, Empty Frames. Everything's really hitting the fan in this issue. And he has to make some impromptu plans. This is one of those books that has some really disturbing moments that happen in it, but they're delivered in a way that makes them extremely funny. He's breaking into the mobster's house, thinks it's supposed to not have been in it, but it still has Mama Mobster and Grandma Mobster still in it. She's kind of an amusing character. She has a bodyguard too. Violence ensues and things get made a mess of. But it looks like potentially he has found all these paintings that are ultimately worth $13 million if he can get them out of this place all in one piece, and himself all in one piece. The cops are just super close to catching him at this point. Also, on top of the mob, he spends a lot of time going, man, I need to retire, but, that's not going to happen. But just a lot of fun. Just really, really enjoy it. I really enjoy McCree's art. That's the biggest reason I pick it up. I just like his style. And it's super fun. Trying to keep some of this not so long because there's so many books here. Ugh. So, Ice Cream Man. This is issue number 42. I love Ice Cream Man. Never a bad issue of Ice Cream Man whatsoever. It is a extremely thoughtful book. At times, it can be extremely dark and on the depressing side. But just really good because that's what it's supposed to be doing. It's supposed to make you think and feel and all that kind of stuff, and that's all great. This issue, which is entitled horror house. So we have some fun at the beginning of this. Our writer, he talks about the horror genre. And the fact he doesn't really feel like he writes in genre, but he understands the idea. But because calling it a genre pigeonholes it, and then you kind of get trapped in this is the things I have to do to make it horror. And he just wants to write a thing, but he also understands from a marketing standpoint and a talking point that labeling something horror or any other genre serves a purpose, because then you can find other people who are interested in the same thing as you, and that sort of thing, and all that stuff, all great and whatnot. So there's all that, and then he goes into okay, so here's our horror story, and yeah, it's a super big bummer. If you take anything that's going on in our real world seriously, it's a super big bummer, because that's what this issue has to do with it. Basically, the basic theme of this issue is if you want to see real horror, step out your front door. It's kind of this issue, and it's good, but just kind of you read it and just kind of go gah afterwards. But still, Prince and Morazzo just do wonderful stuff. They're just super solid. The question, because there's always a question at the beginning of every single one of these issues, is what is truly horrific. I think, now that I've said that, I'm going to look. Yeah, what's truly horrific? And you can email Mr. Prince, and I don't know if he still emails back, but he emailed me. I emailed him one of the questions. It's been years now. I think early on, I think like the first year, I think the question was, what's your favorite oon word? So something like that. Anyway, I don't know. It's been a while since I've emailed him, but yeah, it's super heavy book this time around. It still has all the comic ice cream elements in it and whatnot, but it really, it delivers some bad stuff that is not escapism of comics. And I don't know that I 100% read comics for escapism, but it definitely is one of the things I enjoy about it, is going someplace else and seeing something else and exploring something else, and most of this issue is not that. So next up, we have Convert, issue number 4. This is the final issue. Wonderful Simon Gain cover. Not 100% sure exactly how to talk about this book. I've had it read for a few days now and have pondered, because you can't really talk about it in some sense without spoiling it if you're going to get this in trade or you haven't read it yet or any of that sort of thing. I really, really enjoy it. It's really interesting, this issue, because the entire ecology of the sentient beings living on this world that this astronaut had crash landed on is now all up in the air. There's consequences to that. Some of it gets righted briefly, and then the ending is very left open, I think, as to exactly what happened there. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that open ending to thinking this is what happened. Some stuff kind of gets explained as to, because briefly in, I think issue 2, we have astronauts 30-some years in the future have landed, and they've found the old spacecraft and the bodies, and they found the written work of our artist botanist there, and how that got there. This issue at least shows that, so that's kind of cool. I really enjoyed this. It's just a completely different kind of a story than a lot of the other stuff I'm reading, and it was really interesting. Just the whole kind of passing that happens towards the end of the book. Like I said, really enjoyed it. Don't know how to talk about this issue without it just completely exposing some of the stuff that's going on in it. Then we have issue 3 of the Autumn Kingdom. I mean, I'm enjoying this. I think there's only like one more issue left, so I can't imagine there's only one more issue left though, because where it ends, the girls finally find the entry point to supposedly saving their parents. They keep getting told all the way along that the Fae are out for mortal blood to sacrifice to keep their world going because they're all rotting. That's why the stuff that they're fighting is looking more and more monstrous all the time because they are just spoiling on the vine, basically. And they haven't clued into the fact that they're literally walking right into where they want them at. So, yeah, we'll see. They've are starting to understand some of the burdens of the sword that they're carrying, this massive stone sword that when they get mad or they're getting attacked, suddenly becomes this light thing that they can swing around, just behead all kinds of stuff. There's some great art in here by Christopher Mitten of a centipeded, snake-bodied, lion-headed creature that they lop the head off, which is pretty cool, and some craziness like that. But it is fun. Like I said, they're starting to understand the weight of that sword because they chopped some people up that probably weren't necessary for them to chop up. So it's got the kind of Elric, black blade, aspect to it also, which is fun. But just an enjoyable comic. Ooh, Spectrum issue number 1. Very much looking forward to this issue when I heard about it coming out and whatnot, and I really enjoyed it. It's something I'll go back and read a couple times. It's quite trippy in a lot of aspects. It has to do with sound, and it's got a little bit of alternate reality in it. It's clearly unhinged from reality to a large degree. Our character here is being chased. It implies that she's had a number of lives, and these people continue to chase them. They need the muse of the beginning of sound, and they're after her to get it. So we see these kind of somewhat altered versions of like Elvis, somewhat altered versions of Lady Day and Martin Luther, and just some other, slightly changed, slightly different beat type stuff. Really curious to see where the book is going to go. David Chisholm is just got some really cool stuff, lots of different styles, got some Beethoven type stuff going on in it. It just opens up with some really cool beats, and you can take that literally. Even our bird here, tweet 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 tweet. Anyway, hitting Beethoven at the beginning of it. Just some really interesting stuff going on in it. I'm really curious to see what the next issue ends up being like, and what all the story's going to be. And because I don't know. I mean, most of the time I can read a first issue and go, okay, I kind of see this is where the story's going to go, or that sort of stuff. And I don't know, but I'm in for the ride. I really enjoyed the first issue and looking forward to whatever is next. But this book may be more niche for me just because I love comic books, also really love music, and so this has both, so it's just kind of really up my alley kind of deal. So the question all along the Watchtower, issue number 1. Huge fan of the question. By anything, the question is a main thing with love Renee too as a character. So this issue is somewhat interesting for me just because I didn't read the whole event book that all the books are now coming out of, kind of thing. It's kind of like, surprises in this as to, this is what happened or whatever. They've changed the Watchtower. The Justice League Watchtower is now a much bigger thing. It's a giant community in itself. I'm not getting Justice League Unlimited, but my understanding now is Justice League isn't this tight group. It's everybody, kind of a deal. And there's something going on on the Watchtower. They think they're being invaded. Yeah, basically, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman have shown up and asked Renee to, find that she's good at the questions. She's good at asking the questions to finding that thing. So she's put in charge, basically, of the Watchtower. She carries a rifle that kind of imprisons people, puts them in like a pocket version of the Mirror Universe from Superman. We haven't really seen that in play yet. It's implied that she's the sheriff of the Watchtower. It kind of is, other than she isn't. She's tasked with a specific thing, not like keeping the riffraff in line, because it's all superheroes, so there shouldn't really be riffraff. The Watchtower does get invaded though, so there is some fighting going on. I don't know what I think of this whole premise. It's not the typical vibe that you would get with a question book normally, but I'm willing to give it a while to see exactly what it is. There's some good elements in here. Alex Sugar understands the character. There's some talk about sobriety. There's a talk about of maybe going to the Watchtower is great because I get to avoid a certain amount of stuff. I kind of get away from the life I was living before, and this puts me in the whole thing. And then one of her exes shows up, and that ex happens to be on her, potentially part of her working crew. So that'll be interesting to see some of that. Hopefully we get more of that. Not sure how much of that we'll get with it being a superhero comic, 4-colored superhero comics. I don't know how much of that relationship stuff we'll get to. I would find that the more interesting stuff to some degree. But there's going to be some cool stuff in here. She's working with both the Blue Beetles. They're kind of in charge of the physics of the Watchtower, and so they help see some of that stuff that's going on. So, first issue, it was okay. Some interesting stuff. I'll roll with the stuff that doesn't feel question-like, because why not put her in a different story, right? We've seen her in the alleys a million times, so let's try something different, right? Okay, next up we have Lawful, issue number 5. Great issue. Our main character, of course, they're in the outer circle now, because they're not quite monsters, but they're awfully close to monsters. Our main character gets roped into going out and hunting the actual monsters, because he needs to get medicine for his mom, and that seems to be the way potentially to go about doing it. Did not want to do it, wasn't given a lot of choice. They go over the wall, they hunt some monsters. Of course, you find out the monsters aren't really monsters. They're just like everybody else. They're just more monstrous looking. They're pissed off, so they're monstrous in that sense, because they got literally thrown over the wall. But the inner circle seems to be at war with them. We didn't really point that out until now. So they use our main character as kind of a lure to get to the monsters, and they end up capturing some of the monsters and bringing them back. And now they're going to torture and put them to death by fire, it looks like, potentially. And our main character is rewarded by getting rid of his monstrous stuff. So some really more moral dilemmas. Also, this issue had an interesting moment of, it's racism. And not racism because they're monsters, but the people who are being turned into monsters and get chucked out of the place tend to be non-white people, is implied to this. The monster that he's talking to is Nigerian, I want to say, origin. And, of course, our main character has some Korean descent. Interesting stuff. Definitely enjoying this book. I wasn't sure exactly what all it was going to be, but it has been a lot of fun up to this point. So, good times. Another awesome book. So this is The Power of Fantasy. This is issue number 4. We get a kind of a glimpse at our next superpower right here. She is an artist. She is emotionally unstable. As she becomes unstable, she disappears, and I think a monstrous kaiju takes her place out in Tokyo Bay, and implication is that it could basically destroy the entire world if things kind of don't go her way. So people are kind of walking around all those aspects and whatnot, which is really, really interesting. Part of me thinks, wow, why haven't they? I mean, they're not capable of like, killing her. Like our Uber telepath, he can't like, I mean, even if he likes her, he's all about ethics and whatnot. And wouldn't it be the ethical choice to get rid of somebody who's this kind of unstable that at any moment could kind of like end the planet? So I'll be interested to see if we talk about that or discuss that more. But we get this interesting story. She's done a art installation, and she's not happy with the superpowers that show up because they are arguing amongst themselves instead of this being about her. There's a critic there. The critic needs to give her the right thing, or it's going to be all kinds of bad. And she gets a good thing from the critic. We get an interesting kind of conversation. She has a girlfriend who sometimes is kind of her reminder. Also, she seems to have a app on her phone that lets her know if she is going down the deep end, as it were. So she loves her, but this is a lot of stress and a lot of whatever, kind of thing. So that was all interesting. And the end of it's just like, wow, just how in the thick of stuff our telepath is really intriguing also. But I think now we've been introduced to like the main 4 superpowers. We've kind of had, each of them have had an issue to kind of explain who they are in a sense or another. And there are some other superpowers too, so I don't know if we'll get a few more issues that level that, but it feels like these are the real heavies have been introduced, the ones that truly are earth-shattering people. So I'm really interested to see what else goes on. Just a really intriguing book. Back matter in this issue was pretty interesting too. It had another essay from Kieran Gillen, and his thoughts on why he's telling a story this way instead of telling this other story is interesting in and of itself. Also, but some really good stuff there. Final issue of Mugshot. Great comic book from Mad Cave. Love this style of art, this black and white basically with color splashes. I think largely it's this kind of blue color and a brown, an umber color is what it switches between, kind of depending on what's going on, the mood or whatever. This is the final issue. Very noirish, ends in a very noirish sort of a way. Surprise twists is who's the father of the child, and some of those things there, which are some great stuff and whatnot. Cover speaks volumes there with that shattered picture down below the family, and our 2 main guys getting ready to slug it out. Yeah, I mean, and the ending is great because it basically implies that you individually may think that whatever this thing is over, the chaos in your life is over because you've supposedly cleaned it up and are walking away. That doesn't mean that somebody else that was in your wake does not think it's not over, and will, there's always stuff going on. Just really, really good, fun read. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, had a really good noir, British gumshoey, bag boy feel to it. So yeah, a lot of fun. Next up, we have Jenny Sparks. This is issue number 4. I've been really enjoying this book. Jeff Spoke's art is just really, really good. Really enjoy his style. In this book, it's been great. So Jenny is kind of picking up where the Justice League failed. We're still in the bar with Captain Atom, who still has these demands for a ham sandwich. His family alive, to love him, and him being recognized as God. Um, and I mean, so goes into this bar, and to try and let's see what we can negotiate or whatever. And the Justice League is still laying at his feet, basically dead. At one point, he wears Batman's cowl, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the issue, because there's another story being told also about some of the terrible stuff that has happened in the past. There's a guy here who in the kind of side story that took advantage of people during the housing bubble crisis here in America and whatnot, and she deals with that some. But like I said, this whole main thing, with Captain Madam and his demands, and she's negotiating, so she's doing the negotiating, trying to get a few people out to show good Dave, hey, I want to show the people outside that you're not crazy, that you're a reasonable and sensible kind of a person and whatnot. And he's kind of arguing with that, but just really enjoying some really good fun. And lastly, this time around, is The Moon is Following Us. So this issue has some more really serious, interesting adds in their little story. What does this mean? How does this play with stuff or whatever? We get some more of Daniel Ward Johnson art in this, in kind of the waking real world. We see a scene with mom, and her mom is hospital bed, hooked up to all kinds of stuff and whatnot, clearly on getting ready to pass on, and that whole thing. And the daughter is like standing in the doorway watching this. So how does that play into what's going on in the dreaming world and whatnot? The most of it is spent them diving into action in the dreaming world. They do find where she's at. They attempt to get her. There's some chaos in there and whatnot. And one of the people they're fighting against is pretty interesting and will complicate things even further. Just some wonderful stuff, and great, of course, continues to be great art by Riley Rosmo also in this. Just kind of cool and fun to see where this goes. And clearly there's more story here than just simply, oh no, a girl's trapped in a dream world and parents are going to go rescue her. It's way more complicated than that, clearly. But anyway, that's it for this week. I'm getting near 50 minutes, which is ridiculous. If you happen to watch Clearly This, I really appreciate it. Videos for the next few weeks could be on shaky ground. It is December, and it is a month that keeps me very busy. And also because my books are shipped to me, shipping gets weird this time of the year. I haven't gotten last week's books yet. That's why Saturday you didn't see a new comic book day video. And I don't know if I'll have time when I do get them during next week to do that kind of video, but I will hopefully have time to at least talk about them. So you may not know what I'm going to talk about until I'm talking about them, but hopefully at least we'll have this. I'll find the time to read the books, hopefully. But we'll see. Anyway, thanks. Have a great one, everybody.